Alright, welcome back to this series of videos, and today's video is all about breaking down episode 5 of the Apple TV Plus series Lisey Story, of course based on the novel by Stephen King. Once again, this is very much a spoiler-filled review, so if you have no idea what I'm talking about right now, then you should check out my spoiler-free review of this series right here. And if you haven't seen any of my other breakdowns, why did you click on this? It clearly said episode 5. Anyway, I'd recommend that you'd watch those right here and come back. It will probably help this breakdown make more sense, since I'm going to be referencing a lot of the content from those other videos as a kind of a shorthand. Alright, let's dive into episode 5, The Good Brother. Here we go. The episode opens right where the previous episode left off, with Lisey staring at the pool. She's had an intense suite of memories, and made some connections about water and Booyah Moon. We see several establishing shots. These will be important for later, to know there's a police officer on her property, and that Darla still has the gun. We see that Jim Dandy has some pages that he stole from Scott's office. We once again see the lighthouse. Scott is present to help Lisey continue to remember. What does she do after she leaves Scott in a catatonic state? She turns on water. It overflows. The lighthouse spins. We've seen all this before. What does it add up to? We see that Lisey entered Booyah Moon. She's there by herself, seeing Paul's grave. We then cut to the other important timeline from the last episode. Scott recounts to Lisey the memory of how his brother dies. Now the book gives us much more detail into this dynamic. The book describes how in the Langdon clan, the only way to let the bad out is through cutting. But every so often, the bad gets to the brain, and no amount of cutting will heal you. We see that this has happened to Paul, and he brutally lashes out against his brother, and they have no choice but to tie Paul to a tractor. For many people who dislike the book, this is actually their favorite part. This miniature section of the book and this episode becomes like its own standalone story. It's one of the most compelling and quintessential Stephen King stories he's ever told. It's reminiscent of Stand By Me, and It, and other King works that center around children. Or even The Talisman, which is about a boy who can travel between different worlds. It's also reminiscent of The Dark Tower, where there's another boy who travels between worlds. Now, this is one of my favorite shots in the whole episode. Look at the frames within frames here. Director Pablo Larraín uses the window here and the doorway here to frame the characters in this scene. There are a million different ways you could have shot this scene, yet he chose to do it this specific intentional way, and I believe it adds a layer of symbolic meaning to what's happening. These frames within frames, as we've already discussed, show that our characters feel fenced in. One of these characters is literally chained, or make them feel small and vulnerable. But as this shot moves in on young Scott, he actually gets bigger in the frame, and the frame disappears. While the shot of his brother, the frame squeezes tighter, signifying that the brother is farther and farther away, smaller and smaller. Like the part of him inside that is still human is becoming less and less over time. The other thing that doorways and windows signify is traveling from one space to another, which is obviously a huge theme for this story, traveling world to world like one would step through a threshold. What I loved about this episode in this section is that these events play out almost exactly as they do in the book. Again, Stephen King himself writing this adaptation has made it extremely faithful. Any doubt we had as viewers about something supernatural going on is thrown out the window in this scene. Now remember, in the last breakdown, I spoke about anchors. In the book, King describes these anchors as something that hold you to a world. If you want to travel between worlds, you have to let the anchors go. What we see in this scene is that the demon inside of Paul is essentially an anchor keeping Paul and Scott from going to the other side. And I think it's brilliant to make it be raining in this scene. You literally could not get any more water surrounding Scott. Water being the conduit that makes it easier to travel, and yet he still cannot transport his brother. But as soon as the demon leaves Paul, Scott is able to transport the body easily. Now back in Booyah Moon, Lisey notices the hypodermic needle still in Booyah Moon from all those years ago, and it's still full of the sedative that Scott never got to use. And now we're starting to piece together why Lisey has come here. Now remember, Scott is in a catatonic state. She has come to Booyah Moon to try and find him. And now, Lisey in the present is remembering all this, continuing to piece it all together. And she finally realizes that Scott left her this bool hunt so that he could help Lisey understand, help Lisey unrepress these memories in order to save her sister. He knew that she would once again be transfixed by the pool, once again become catatonic. Lisey explicitly says that she does not want to remember these things. So Scott knew before he died that he needed to remind her in order to take care of Amanda. Lisey walks through Booyah Moon, sees the remnants of Paul and Scott's time there, and makes her way to the pool. There she finds Scott and tries to reach him. She tries to bring him back, but she's making too much noise. She's rousing the long boy. She takes the Afghan and walks into the forest. We're reminded of what happened the last time Scott let a loved one wander through the forest towards the long boy. And in the book, King describes that Lisey understands that the only way to truly wake up Scott is to risk her life, to put herself in danger by drawing the long boy to her. Scott tries to get Lisey to bring them home, but she can't, and he realizes that the Afghan is an anchor, just like the demon inside Paul was. And with the lighthouse watching, Lisey's back. And so is Scott. And then we get a slew of memories that hit Lisey, helping her make up her mind of what she needs to do next. She packs a bag, texts her sister, grabs the shovel, and sets out for the pool. She steps in. We see her swim to the bottom and disappear. She is headed to save her sister. And that's next time on Lisey's Story. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think about this show and about these breakdowns. And if you'd like to read the book, you can get the Lisey Story audiobook, as well as another book of your choice, for free on Audible using the link in the description. We'll see you next time.